Well, hello. Lovely to see you. Hello, hello. I hope everyone is doing well today. Erin from Nielsen Letters Calligraphy hanging out with you this afternoon. So as we know, we are continuing on our exploration / learning of copperplate calligraphy, and today is letter group number 4, i.e. the exceptions, as they were. So I ran out of time today. I was busy with other things and the time got away from me, which is why I'm a little bit late. But I've been testing out different backgrounds for me. So this works okay, I guess. I'm not mad at it. That's fine. I mean, it's just my office, nothing crazy. Today we're going to be doing, like I said, we're going to be doing letter group 4, which is called the exceptions, because there's not that they're difficult, it's just some of the rules that we go with them, we haven't necessarily practiced those movements before, so we're going to be going through that. I had taken a lecture class with Paul Antonio Scribe recently on Zoom. He was generous enough to do one that was $5 or something like that. So I was watching it, and when he teaches online, he did something that was interesting. He mentioned something in his stream on Zoom, which was that he does a lot of exploration with pencil, and I like doing that, but I'm always afraid that I'm gonna be going way too much into detail, and people are gonna completely lose interest in what I'm doing. But I think today I'm gonna try doing a lot of stuff in pencil and then go into the pen and the ink. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We'll see. And all right. Let me switch my scene. Let's get back. And I also switched how I do my streams too. And I switched this type of vibe too. So, if you like it, let me know if this is okay for you. But I think this is good. Cropped it a little bit. You can still see still see what's going on over here. Still see this, which is great. As my little desk pad moves. Hold on. Let me stick this down. I have little little blue things, these little sticky tabs underneath on the corners, and I stick it to my desk so it doesn't move. Just so I have a good contrast of there we go. A good contrast going on. So yeah. I think this works. I think this is okay. As I was working on this scene setup. It's the simplest setup ever, but I was like, I don't know if I like my other one. Let me figure it out. I'm trying to be a better streamer, guys. I'm trying to improve. So as per the usual, I like to start with some warm-up drills. So I'm just gonna grab some paper, and I have my little templates here. Give me a second. And now I'm back in frame. Ooh, this needs to adjust. Let's see how long that takes before my camera doesn't forget. And there she goes. How nice. Just so you know, this is the paper I normally use just to practice on. I mean, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Nothing too crazy. It's also not crazy expensive either. And thankfully, in Montreal, the stores are finally open if you're a non-essential business, so I can go back to Michael's and get more, because I'm actually running out. Because when I do these streams, I go through more than I realized. So let me start. And where is my glove? My glove. As per usual, roll up my sleeves. I don't know if you notice, I'm also wearing jeans on the bottom. I'm totally wearing a Canadian tuxedo today. But it's fine. I mean, it happens. You work from home. It is what it is. All right, cool. So this one, we're starting clockwise. I like to start with warm-ups. I haven't done really any calligraphy today. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I did do some calligraphy this morning. I had forgotten. I had a former student had reached out and had submitted her last homework to me, and I was going through and I was correcting it and giving her some tips on a question that she had. So I was doing that. So I was doing some calligraphy this morning, but nothing too intense. I was mostly doing like back end stuff, to be 100% honest, with like the business acumen of running your own shit. Always fun. Okay, cool. So let's start with our warm-ups. So as you know, I like to, because I'm always, copper plate is always run, like I've mentioned many times, is at 55 degrees. So I always try and like imitate that when I'm doing my just like loosening up of my arm. And I like using a glove because I don't want my hand oils to get all over my paper, because then what happens is ink tends to be repelled by the oil that you leave behind. And yeah, it's just easier. It makes me look like I'm really professional, so that's cool. Love that. Love that, love that. All right, so we'll start. I always find this part like incredibly meditative. It's like really nice. I appreciate it thoroughly. This is clockwise. Jeez, I almost forgot what direction clockwise was. So my hand's pretty relaxed, just going back and forth. Just kind of doing my thing. But you know, doing these warm-ups and stuff is always like a nice time to like reflect on like what's been going on in the world and my life and all that good stuff. So, you know, what's been going on. I've been trying to like kind of business related, but kind of not. But I've been trying to redo my own branding these days, and I mean, it is proven to be difficult. Honestly, like it's so much harder, I think, to do branding identity for yourself than it is for you to do it for someone else, because it's so hard to be objective. Because I've had the same like logo-ish for a while now. The one that I did when I first started my business was like done pretty hastily, and I just needed something, and then I realized it like didn't look like the calligraphy on it was like kind of terrible, so I was like, oh, let me redo it. But I just did it fast, and I didn't really think. I just needed like a placeholder to replace the horrible calligraphy that was in the initial one, right? So what I ended up doing was just doing a placeholder one, and I'm looking at it, and I've had it for a little bit of time now, and I'm just like, I'm just not happy with it, but I don't know why, and it's hard to put my finger on, because now I've just gotten used to it, and I'm like, oh, if I have to change things, then I have to change my business cards, and I'm like, what? But I've been trying to be better with that stuff, because what happens when you just kind of start your business and you just kind of go, you don't necessarily take the time at the beginning, because you just are excited to get started, to like do that whole like branding exercises and brand identity and all of those other things that like you technically should be doing, but when you don't do that, it's really hard to like figure out what your goals are sometimes, because you're like, oh, I just want to do all of these things, but like, does it really move your business forward? And like, does your branding look all the same across all platforms? Like who knew that like it was so difficult, right? Like specifically when you're doing it for yourself, because like I can do it for other people, but it's just like it's so hard to be objective when it's for when it's yourself. So I've been working on that this week. Well, actually, I've been working on it since the beginning of February, but now I have a client who also has asked me to do some branding for them. So that's like taking up a little bit more of my time, because like I would rather prioritize someone who's paying me versus just myself, where I'm not paying myself to do my own branding, you know what I mean? Which is, I think, also the problem is like, you know, it's easy to prioritize other people over your own brand as well, or your own like whatever you're doing. Let me try and get some good posture. I feel like I'm hunching. So yeah, I was doing that, and then I don't know if you could tell, but I got my hair did, so that's great. I'm very happy about that. It's very exciting because it was getting so freaking. My hair was getting so long. It was like absolutely ridiculous. Like when I had, so I've only had short hair for like a couple of years, I guess three-ish years now. I've had short hair, but most of my life I've had like hair down to here. So like I used to do my hair in a very specific way. I would essentially like roll the front of my hair and like put it up where I'd braid it and stuff like that. And like my hair had gotten so long because all the hairdressers were closed where I am that like it had grown a lot. Plus like I've recently started, well, semi recently, for the past year and a half or so, I've been dyeing my hair platinum, and I cannot do that on my own, unfortunately, because I am a redhead. And I didn't know that being a redhead equals you need to go to a professional to remove your hair color. Because if you don't do that, your hair turns orange or yellow because you're not doing it properly and they can't lift it properly. I'll just go. It's like very funny to me. So, but now I feel like myself again. It's been nice. Because like even though no one really sees me, like my husband sees me, and then like you guys see me on stream, but like I don't really go outside of my apartment anymore. Like, why would I? Everything was closed, and like there's no gatherings right now, so it's not like I can go and see anyone or go and hang out with anyone, or I'm just always home. So I was like, you know what? This makes me happy. Like, I just want to have like, you know, I look in the mirror, I'm just like, this feels better. Like, I feel like a bit better, you know? Plus, like, today's like really nice and sunny day, and my desk is right in front of the window, which is also why the lighting on my face always ends up changing, if anyone has wondered why that happens. But that would be why. But yeah, I mean, it's just nice to feel like a bit of normalcy, like going to, like, I never thought I would be one of those, like, women who would be like, I need to go to the salon to feel better. Like, I never. I was like, I'm not that high maintenance. Are you kidding me? Please. But apparently I am that high maintenance. And I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. But it is very nice, though. It's always nice, you know, to get that head massage. The head massage is always so, like, choice, you know? Yeah, if anyone ever like follows me on Instagram, I'll post sometimes like not only calligraphy things that I'm doing, but also like, you know, life stuff, whatever the case. And in my stories, I had because my hair was so long. When she did the blonde, she foiled it to look like I was Sonic the Hedgehog, but with like metal foil all the way back. Hilarious, super funny, very avant-garde fashion. I was like, girl, I feel like a model. Put me in a magazine. Like, I'm sure this would be like, this is like haute couture or something. Oh, I'm always so bad at clockwise. This direction with doing loops, oh my god. It's like my hand wants to do this and towards me, but going away is always hard for me. This is why I go through so much paper. I do recycle it though, to be fair, especially when it's just like pencil and stuff. I don't know if I should recycle the ones that have ink. I try to, because I feel bad if I don't. So like, I'm not trying to kill the environment, you know what I mean? I'll do this guy fast. Yeah, like what else has been going on? I'm trying to think now. As of quarantine, like honestly, nothing else has been really going on. I mentioned this in the last stream. Like I know it's really bad, but like I just haven't been watching the news, like almost at all. It's just been like tough to watch it all the time. It's kind of depressing. I won't lie. Oh, sorry, I had a text. Like I just haven't felt like watching it, and I'm like, you know, honestly, there's nothing that's changed. Vaccines will happen when they happen. Regardless of that, like I would be way down on the list of priority anyways, just for like my age and stuff. Like I'm 32, so I'm not in the highest risk range. I am also not I don't work in a like a dangerous, like I work from home. So like I'm not in like an essential job kind of person, so I'm gonna be way down on that list, which is unfortunate but fortunate at the same time. Like I totally get it. So, you know, I'll just be here at home minding my own business. I always find this one kind of cool. Like I'm just looking at it on the screen. It always looks fun from far away. But yeah, actually, so yeah, like I was saying, so instead of watching the news and feeling about the world, I've instead opted to watch Stargate SG-1. And I've been working through the seasons, and I'm on season 10, the last season, and I've realized that it's a delightful show. I had forgotten how fun it was. I had forgotten, like, it's just nice to watch something that, like, you know they're gonna win. It's gonna be tough, but they're gonna come through in the end, and it's kind of nice to just see that happen and, like, feel hopeful. I think. And feeling hopeful is nice. You know, and there's like so much like a metaphor about, you know, freedom, and it was actually really funny in season 9 or season 10 they actually did a pandemic episode, and I was like, oh, like I know how this is. I know. We all know. We all know how that feels. Very funny. But I have to say, it's weird when, it was weird a little bit actually. So if anyone's watched a Stargate SG-1 before, you might know what I'm talking about. But like Mr. General Jack O'Neill, like when he left the show, it felt so weird for a little bit. And it was like it was so hard when he wasn't there. It was so strange. So strange. And my pizza. Yay. Alright. Cool. So then what I wanted to do as well, so I'm a dum-dum and I didn't print out enough of my sheets with my guidelines on them. I only have 3 that are printed out. And can I print them out now? I might be able to. 1 second, because I only have so many ports on my laptop. And I have like a bunch of things plugged in. Let me see. So this would just be my mouse. I should be able to unplug this guy and not mess anything up. Perfect. Give me a second to get paper. hear some printer noises in a sec. So I'm gonna print out some guide sheets for myself. But you can just listen to the chill vibe music for a sec while I print. While I print this out. I completely forgot that I only had a few because I was using them when I was doing some work the other day, and I went through a few. All right. Let's make like 6 copies. That should be enough. Yay, printer noises. That means it's working. I used to have it set up as like wireless printing, but like I don't even remember how to do that now. I'll just be here waiting for my guide sheets to be printed. Ta-da! They're actually a little bit better for stream too because they're a bit darker. And you can see them on the screen better versus, so my portrait ones versus my horizontal landscape ones. I don't remember why it's like that. Like, I think I printed them, I made them like the same day, but for whatever reason, the lines on this one is much darker. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm so good at computers, and other times I'm like, I don't know anything. I know nothing. Just call me Jon Snow. All right, here we go. Cool. So I wanted to do some drills as well to go through some good practice drills. Yeah, make sure I'm getting nice and warmed up as well. And like I said, I'm gonna go a little bit with the pencil more than I normally do. I think it's a good idea. So I find this is a good drill, which is, let me see if I can get this so you can definitely see what I'm doing. Yeah, all right. I just have to make sure that I'm not like here. I have to go farther back so you can see it from the up camera. So when doing calligraphy, you should always, actually, sorry, I hesitate to go always or never when I'm talking about anything, generally speaking. So this here, this is just like a little, like a desk pad that I bought off of Amazon, I'm pretty sure. And then I have a few papers stacked on top of each other. And the reason why one should, generally speaking, do this is so your paper has some cushion, so you can get some good thicks and then some thin thins, but when you're pressing down, you don't have to press as hard to make the line thicker. And this applies to when you're doing it with a metal nib as well, versus just a pencil. It's also a little just easier. I sometimes, I don't always do the whole arm movement, and it's something that I'm working on. Because it's just not, it's not specifically how I was taught, so it's hard to all of a sudden decide. And when I say whole arm movement, I mean like my whole arm is moving, like I'm moving from my shoulders and instead of moving just from my fingers. And it's hard to go from like purely doing this to go and try and like use your whole arm. But I try. I do try. If nothing else, even if I'm just like moving like here, I'm not moving this. I'm at least moving like here, you know? But yeah, I'm definitely not the best at that whole arm movement thing. Again, I wasn't taught that like that, right? And I feel like it's having a bit of a resurgence now. Like there's a lot, I feel like there's a lot more people talking about it than when I started as well, which is good. So yeah, drills like this are good because this is like a lot of control with the thins and the thicks. That's what we're kind of looking for with, oh, hey Faith, how's it going? Thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate it. Oh, I didn't see the chat. Hold on a second. Let me get back here. You have an afro now. Have fun. This is how I normally look. It's just quarantine has made all the salons close. So it's always a challenge to keep my hair nice and blonde and like cut in a way that's not like ridiculous. Hold on. I just realized my chat box is like way too small. I wasn't able to see it when you were writing. So let me make that a bit bigger so I'll be able to read it. Sweet. There we go. Cool. I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking. You know, got a haircut, feel good, feel fly. Always nice. I always appreciate a good haircut. Always makes you feel better. I had said it earlier in the stream of like, you know, I never really thought of myself as someone who would like be like, oh man, I need to go to the hairdresser. But apparently I am that person. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy. It's so crazy. That's fun that you have an afro though. Sorry, I'm just live moving my chat box over so I can read it there, but it's not so tiny. I'm such a good streamer. I finally got like some overlay, like not overlays, widgets that are like live. Look at me improving my Twitch skills. I'm so proud of myself. There we go. Some nice. So that's a nice little drill. Have you been practicing? Have you been practicing Faith? I should ask. With have you been doing drills or anything like that? Or are you just like, I'm just gonna do it the way I want to do it, which is also cool. There's no problem with that. Nothing at all for the past week. That's fair. That's cool. Well, then I extra appreciate you in the stream. So the reason why I'm doing the ovals, by the way, although I'm not doing them particularly well, is there's good muscle memory that happens when you're doing ovals. So again, I do them from over here. I know a lot of people do them from the top and they go back up again. So that's just kind of how I do it. Because again, that was how I was taught how to. And that's kind of how I teach my students as well. Is to go from using the clock analogy. But the horrible saying of there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, and then some of these drills. Oh, proofreading a thesis. Yikes. Those, I have never, I only have a bachelor's degree, so I did not have to do thesisizing, like at all. But I can't imagine that that's any kind of fun. Like, it sounds intense. How many pages was it? Because I think like, is it is the plural thesis, or is it like thesi or theses? Like, how long is it? How many pages is one generally? I feel like they're really long. I feel like they're like a book. All right. And now I will go with my pen and ink. I think I'll use this guy. I don't know. I never know what pen holder I should use when I'm on stream. Because I'm just like, you don't need a pen holder like this to do calligraphy by any means. I have that one and I like using it because it's pretty. I also think what I'm going to do is I won't use a Nico G today. I think I'm going to use a Hunt 101. Normally I use a Nico or a Zebra G when I'm doing my streams when I'm teaching, because I know that that's usually the most easily accessible and like purchasable nib out there, because they're pretty easy to find, and not everyone has like a calligraphy supplier near them. But I feel like trying a little bit more of a flexible nib today. We'll see if I regret my decision. We'll see. We're gonna keep our fingers crossed. So actually here, I'll zoom out so you see getting my Higgins. I got my pen holder. I have my dirty water. It's in my other one. It looks as black as the ink does. How fun. I need to clean that out at some point in time. And I just made sure my nib was clean with a little bit of Windex. 75,000 words long. Lord. Okay, so long. What you're telling me is it took a long time. This is what I understand. This is what I'm hearing from you. Is that she took a long time. I've never read a thesis. I've never done a thesis. I have a friend who did a thesis, and I was just like, girl, good for you. I can't say, I had trouble writing papers, honestly. Like, I was such a procrastinator in university. Like, I just couldn't. I just had such a hard time wanting to sit down and like, trying to like regurgitate the information that was taught to me. I like learning. I like being in class. I like doing that type of thing, but I hate having to write papers. I was the bane of my existence. I could not stand it. And also like I knew I was not gonna be like some lawyer somewhere, so like why do I have to write so many papers? Like, why? You loved writing papers? Yeah, my husband the same way. He was like, this is fine. I started early. I did like outlines and whatever. I was like, good for you. I was the queen of living in the library like 24 hours before a paper was due. I would literally, because the library for my university was open 24/7. I would be there all night, and I would just write it, and I would just give it in, and I didn't care. I was like, as long as I pass, I don't give a shit. As horrible as that sounds, it was just not fun. I hated them. I'd rather take a test. I'd rather just sit and read information. Oh man, I wish I had that kind of stamina to sit down and write a paper. I have trouble writing blog posts for that same reason. I'm just like, I don't want to sit down and just write like whatever. Like, I don't want to. Which I think is so funny, because I think when I was younger, I was like, I could be a writer. I hate it. I hate sitting down and writing. I love reading, but I don't like writing. It's not for me. I'm always envious of people who have that type of I don't even know, stamina? Stamina, probably. I can't sit still that long. Oh yeah, unless it's calligraphy, yeah, then I can sit down and write all day long. That's fine. No problem. But like trying to sit down and distill information that I got from like a professor and then like using resources or like references and like MLA style or Chicago or what, like I just don't care. I was a horrible student with that stuff. There we go, here. So I'm gonna, the reason why also I think I wanted to use the Hunt 101 as well is because I wanted to show you it's like way more flexible, but it might be easier on someone's hands that once they get used to the fact that like a Nico G and a Zebra G are pretty stiff nibs, so you have to press kind of hard to make like the fix here. But a Hunt 101 you don't have to. Like it's thin and then you press a little bit and then all of a sudden like a nice swell happens right in the middle. So it depends on like how heavy your hand is, really. Did I used to practice with just one nib when I first started? I mean, I think I was like really obsessed with like Nico G's when I first started. I've mentioned this before. I had a crazy heavy hand. And when I used nibs that were more flexible, all it would do would frustrate me. Like I couldn't make it work properly. I would like stab the paper, it would get stuck all the time. It's only been semi-recently that I've been able to lighten up my hand so it doesn't hurt when I work. Because that is the challenge with the Nico and Zebra G's is when you do use them for a long time. If you are trying to make really thick fix, it can be difficult on your hand because you're pressing pretty hard a lot. So it depends on how long you go. But I mean, like not obviously, like with practice you can kind of make everything work. So that's just kind of how I think of it. But I mean, I go back to the Nico G all the time, especially if I'm doing like, or actually specifically the Zebra G, if I'm using it with kind of textured paper, because the Zebra G I find it doesn't catch as much. It's a little bit blunted, the tip. But generally speaking, I will recommend when someone is first learning to start off with the Nico or Zebra G and try that out. And if you can make that work and be comfortable and you like it, because it just removes I feel like it removes an impediment. Like you don't have to troubleshoot them as much. So if you're messing up, you don't necessarily have to go, oh, it's the nib. Like generally it's not that one. Sometimes it can be. But then like, you know, you move up to like ones that are more flexible, like a Hunt 101 or like an EF principle, which I like a lot. I actually prefer it to a Hunt 101. I just don't have any left right now because my art stores were closed. And then like the hyper flexible, which is super fun, just the Barris Rose. But the Hunt is very nice. Or yeah, there's also the Blue Pumpkin. The Blue Pumpkin's a fun one. You don't get very thin hairlines with it though, to be fair, but you do get really thick thicks. And here I'll do some ovals. There we go. Yeah, because when you're doing the ovals from the top, like you can control, I think, sometimes the weight a little bit easier. I might start doing them like this more frequently. But I also have like a pretty intense muscle memory built in of like going over and down as well. Oh, the Blue Pumpkin Nib. I'll show you. It's the Leonard Steno. These guys. Those are blue pumpkins. If anyone ever asks you. The nib is, this one I need to toss because it's resting, and I didn't realize I just saw that now. But yeah, it's the Leonard Steno or the Browse. Browse Iserlone. Anyways, those guys. Yeah, a lot. Colloquially, they're known as the blue pumpkin. Yeah. Or at least they are in North America. I can't speak because I know you're in the UK, so I maybe not there, but here, yes. They're known as the blue pumpkin. I don't know if you saw this, but I know that a couple of years ago, that particular nib went like viral, quote unquote, because during Halloween, someone, I don't know what calligrapher it was, I don't remember now, wrote in like a red ink and it looked like blood, and they were using that nib when they did their video, and it was like a really like crisp. Anyways, I vividly remember that, and that's how I was like, oh, what is that? And then I had asked my calligraphy teacher, she's like, it's a blue pumpkin. I was like, oh, okay. But like, you know, use whatever nib you want. If you like one over another, that's cool. The calligraphy police are not going to come after you. You know what I mean? No one's going to come knocking on your door and being like, listen, you should be using whatever for that, like, especially if it's just like, it's a hobby and it's fun. Or even if it's not a hobby, even if it's just like your business, like, who cares? Just do what you want. You know, try your best and do what you want. All right. So, I'm going to do a little reminder of our basic strokes, just so we have them, just so we know, just so we remember. All right. So we're going into our entry stroke, our downstroke, big downstroke, little downstroke. Actually, I will zoom and so you can really see like how much, like I'm barely pressing, and like look how thick that line is. It's not straight, but it is thick. There we go. I think that was, yeah, it's better. I was like, I feel like that was straight. It's because it's hard because I don't want to go too far over it because my head hits my iPad and it kind of dances with it. I'm just like petting it with my hair. So it's a little bit harder because I'm a little bit further back, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll make it work. There we go. Yeah. So I'm barely pressing and pulling down, and then I'm closing the tine. Then it's our underturn. So it's essentially, it's like a little downstroke. We're lightening a pressure right around here, and then we're going into an exit stroke or entry stroke right here. There's that one. And there's the big one of that. So same thing. It's kind of like the downstroke, and then we're starting to turn. We're lifting, and then we're pushing away. Then we have our descender loop. That one was not good. That one's also not fantastic. You'd think all that warming up I just did before would make this better and easier, but I think this is going to be good though. There we go. That was a better one. Pretty even all the way down. Start lifting a little bit as we're turning, almost no pressure, and then bringing it back. Then we're doing the overturn. Then we're doing an ascender loop. Then a compound curve, which is the overturn and the underturn pretty much together. They had a baby. They made that. And the oval, either starting from the top or at 1 o'clock, bringing it back around. Cool. So those are the basic strokes. Just as a little reminder that all of those are the 8 strokes that build your alphabet, pretty much. So there's that one. So that one is done. Yeah, I'm glad I took the time to just print out my guidelines. It does make it easier, I think, on stream to see too versus using my light pad, because I find like the contrast is a bit weird. Plus, like, because it's a light, like my camera like loses its mind sometimes, especially because the sun is going down. So like my lighting is going to change in my office. All right. So, group 4. Group 4 for the letters. We're finally getting to the meat and potatoes of today's stream, which is group 4, the exceptions. So, I'm gonna go and pencil group 4. So group 4 consists of the minuscule f, p, q, s, r, x, and z. So it's not that these letters are difficult, they're just built slightly differently than things that we've done before. And there's maybe a different like motion that we have to do that aren't necessarily the basic strokes. There might be a different like little shape in there somewhere. So like the minuscule f, so we're gonna start entry stroke, bringing it up to the waistline. We're gonna do an ascender loop, bring it down. Sorry, I just want to make sure that you see what I'm doing. Bring it down, and then we're going to go about halfway between the baseline and the descender, and then we're going to stop. We're not bringing it all the way down. So right now it looks like a really like an L that you messed up on. You're like, oh, like crap, I forgot I need to stop at the baseline. How it makes it look like an F is you have to do this shape. So it's like you make it here and then you bring it back up. So it's kind of like almost like a Nike swoosh. And then you put these together. And it's entry stroke, ascender loop, bringing that down, making a little dot here, crossing, and then bringing it back up again. And then that's your F. It kind of looks like an anchor almost. I'm trying to think what this kind of looks like. Kind of looks like that. So yeah, once again, we're doing entry, ascender loop, pressing as we're going down, stopping about halfway here. We're going to make a little press down, lifting, and then up again. So there should be, when we're going to use the ink, you'll see it. This is going to be a little bit thicker and we're going to lighten up, and this is going to be a hairline, because what you don't want to do is cross, so like never cross your streams. No, kidding. You never cross two thicks. So you want to make sure that this line here is a hairline when it's going across the thick downstroke down here. Because two thick lines shouldn't cross, ever. Two thins, no problem. A thin and a thick, fine, but two thicks, mm-mm. So a little faster, up, and then down, and then up again. So we'll do that again with ink after. So then another variation that I like to throw in there, because I think this one's similar to handwriting, sorry. Sorry, I thought I had a notification. Apologies. As we're doing an entry stroke, ascender loop, going down all the way, and then we're kind of making a reverse descender loop. And then we're going back out again. And I think this one is similar to handwriting, I think. So it's up, down, up, and then over. So this line here should be parallel. Like here and here with this guy. Like this should all be the same all the way up. And then these should be pretty close in size together, like these two loops. So this one's maybe a little bit small, but yeah, that's how it should be. So we're going entry stroke, ascender loop, bringing it down to a reverse descender loop, and then we're bringing it over again. This one's a bit better, but this is good because this is all parallel. I need to figure out a way to make my desk stop shaking so much because I see it just like meow, meow, meow. That's because the iPad's heavy. So like on the arm, it like really wants to like be like on a ship, singing sea shanties. All right, so let's go in and do these with ink. So we're going to do that first variation, which is hairline. Actually, I'm going to put this, can I pull you a little closer so you can really see what my hand is doing? I think so. Maybe here? Maybe like this. So hairline, up to an ascender loop, and then we're pulling down. We're stopping there. You know, like a little teardrop. And we're going through, and then we're going back up again. I find this one actually a bit thick. Hold on, there we go. That's a bit better. This one felt a little chunky for no reason, but this one's good. So let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see. A little bit better. So again, going up, then down, and then teardrop, pull, and then away. So actually, I'll break apart the parts because sometimes it's a little bit easier to see. So we're going entry stroke plus ascender loop down plus teardrop, press and away. So this teardrop is made by I swirl and then I push and then I'll pull away. It's very hard to watch myself do this on screen. It's very weird. Actually, there's not a lot of ink in my pen, which is good. Maybe I can see. It's like it's a weird, like it's up, press down, and then away. That is what this guy is. So let's do the other one. The other variation. Which is the one with like the ascender and like the descender loop, but it's like the descender loop is like the other direction. So we're going entry stroke, ascender loop. We're going to bring it down all the way and then release and then up. This is a bit off. It's not exactly at 55, so there we go. There we go. That's a bit better. So the thickest part of my stroke should be right here, right in the middle of that X height. And you can tell like I'm going up, and as I'm coming around the corner here, I'm starting to press and get like, then I'm like full pressure here until about here, and then I'm starting to release, going back up right to the baseline and then away. So like this line and this line are parallel, or sorry, this whole line actually I should say is pretty much parallel to this guy, and there's going to be equal space all the way through, and this loop and this loop should be more or less equal in width, give or take. If we're not trying to be perfect, we're just trying to learn. This is what we're aiming for. Yeah, there we go. Let me do both side by side so we have a nice example of both. I say nice. That one looks like not good. So hold on a second. Let me make a nice example of both. Up. Oh boy. I'm gonna clip that again. Just repeating myself again, like I'm in a loop. And then here, up, down. There are two F's. Fufa. Actually, this brings up a good question that I sometimes get about double letters, because two F's together tend to happen more often. Like words like different, and I can't think of any other words right now off the top of my head, but different definitely has two F's in it. You can use both styles. You don't have to keep them both exactly the same. If anything, especially when you're learning, it's really hard to make two identical letters right next to each other. So a way to kind of cheat that a bit is to make them two different variations, so you're not necessarily comparing them directly next to each other. This happens more often with many calligraphers than you would think. Myself very much included in that. But this is kind of where you can get into a little bit of fun. So you can, do one that's like this, and then you do this guy, you're crossing on this side. So here we had the first variation and the second, and then the second and the first is right here. You can get into some like flourishing as well. If you want to do both together, you can as well. But it's hard to make them look identical when they're next to each other, because like those two blobby blobs don't look the same. Like this part's like not bad, but like you'll be able to tell immediately that they're not exactly the same. And I guess it also depends if you care. Maybe it's like a thing. Maybe you're like, no, whatever, I'm not a computer. It's not going to be exactly the same. I don't care what it looks like. I'm like, you know what? Respect. That's cool. Sometimes that you want it to be exactly the same, but you're maybe not there yet. You can't, you're not capable. Totally fine. Cheat it. Two different kinds. You're welcome. You can feel free to use that at any point. Also, I just realized that the way that this lines up is very funny on my camera on the top and bottom. That's very like it, because this guy is mirrored, because otherwise I feel like I look like I'm crazy. So like when I lift here, it lifts like the wrong one. That's very funny. It looks like on the top one, it always looks like I'm left-handed, but I'm actually a righty. So the one that's like on the bottom is the more accurate one. That's very funny. Here, I'll do it like this, so it's not like so completely ridiculously obvious. That's very funny the way that lined up. Or sorry, it's very funny to me. I'm ridiculous and easily amused, but that's okay too. All right, cool. Next one, letter P. P. There are three variations of the letter P that I will show you right now. So the first one will be pretty, I don't want to say easy, but this is definitely from the basic strokes. So we're doing entry stroke, we're doing descender. So the descender for the P is like a third sorry, you're going entry stroke. We're starting the descender for the P here at around a third of the way between your ascender and your waistline. And you're going to bring it down to about halfway. So if you had an F and a P next to each other, these two lines would stop at the same place. And then you would do a compound curve. I don't always like doing the letter P like this, and I will tell you and explain why. The reason why I'm not always a big fan of this is because not everyone realizes that that's a letter P, right? It's not always legible. Usually when it's within a word, you can read it as a P, but like that's not how we write P's anymore. So another way that I like to show people that you can, because it's legible this way, is we're doing the same entry stroke, downstroke, but then we're going to come up and over. We're making a little dot and then back again. So if you're looking at it like upside down, this looks like the letter C, even including that little dot, that little teardrop that's right there. But this, I find in the way that we read writing today, this reads much more like a P than this does. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. This is much more traditional. This is, I actually don't even know where I picked this one up from. Apologies. And it's really hard to Google, like, where did this shape of P come from? Like, I don't know. So I can't tell you, like, I guarantee you I didn't create this, but it's probably a more modern variation of this guy. I'm going to go with that. And then the other one is, sorry, I'm going to put my ink over here so I don't have to reach so far. Going up, down, and then similar, but instead of stopping here, we're going to continue going and do this. I think this is more of a modern calligraphy P. I feel like this is where I've seen this a lot, but this reads like a P. Or when you flip it upside down, it looks like the letter E as well, which is a kind of a good way to check your work. Sometimes it's just to flip it upside down and see what it looks like. So we're starting always from the same basis of like entry stroke, descender, or sorry, downstroke. Apologies, I said descender, I meant downstroke. And then we have three variations that you can add to here. So we're doing either the very traditional, we're doing the compound curve, we're doing like the upside down C, or we're doing the upside down E. And you can really see them like when they're not connected, what that looks like. But we're also making sure that these lines are pretty much at the same angle too. We're always aiming to be, sorry, our hairlines in this, when they're touching that baseline, we're always kind of aiming for them to be at more or less that same angle, because this is what will give you your consistency within your words. Because if they're all at the same angle, your spacing will always be the same too, or more often than not will be the same. And then the same thing like I did with the F, you can, if you don't want to try and make them both at the same, like having exactly the same P next to each other, because like you know that you can't make them identical and that's kind of what you want them to look like, just cheat it. I mean, honestly, that's it. Just put two different ones next to each other. So like the word happy, for example, because like I'll write happy all the time. Happy birthday, happy anniversary, happy Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy what, like, you know what I mean? It's a word that's very common when you're working in calligraphy. So I've essentially just adopted the fact that like I probably will never, or like I consistently, it's not going to happen. They're always going to be exactly the same. So I just make them both different ones, and then that's fine. So like I'll do one that's like maybe the more traditional one, And then that works into maybe the one that is a little less traditional. But then you have two P's next to each other, and you don't have to have them compared to each other all the time. This also opens up, again, fun possibilities for flourishing. So you do one, let's say you do here and then over, and then maybe you do this. Maybe that's what you do, because that's fun. Why wouldn't you want to do that if you're writing the word like happy, you know? So there's a lot of variety in ways that you can kind of still make it look nice, but it doesn't need to be identical to the one next to it if you don't want it to be, and that's totally fine. Again, there are rules, but like if you want to like be a bit creative, go for it. Like, who cares? It's fine. Be you, man. Just be you. So there's that one. Cool. All right, so now we'll move on to the letter Q. So the reason why the Q is in the exceptions or like in group 4, excuse me, it's because it's a descender loop, but it's the other way around, kind of like the F was. So we're going entry stroke, oval. We're familiar with this. We're doing the descender loop, but we're doing the descender loop, but we're not going to go like a G, right? Because this is a G. We have to do the opposite. So oval, down. We're going down here. Oop, that was not straight, Erin. Oop, oop. Oh, there we go. And instead of going this way, we're going back on itself. So a good way to practice, actually, the letter Q, because I did a G here, is to alternate between a G and then a Q. And then another G. So, you know, you can see I curved it here a little bit too much, but my ovals are not bad. That's good. I'm not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. That's cool. I'll take it. But yeah, this is like, it's a good exercise. And also, if you want to flip it upside down again, you can also check and see how your loops are doing. So this one and this one, not bad. This one and this one, like, this is weird, like, but you don't notice it until you flip it, right? Like, look how not good that is. It's not great. It's not consistent. But I mean, that's how you want to kind of critique your work, right? When you want to go and be better. Like, I was too quick, too fast. Usually that happens when I'm going too fast, when I end up curving it that way, because I'm just kind of going in the motion. Let me try and do that again a little bit slower. Also having trouble keeping ink in my little well in there. That's better. Those are 2 G's. And then we're going to do a Q. Much more consistent in that one. Like, much more. So yeah, there's your Q. And now we're going to do the R. So I think I had shown this version of the R last week, I think, in letter group 3, but let me just go through it again anyways. So we have this R, which I think is actually a more modern version of an R, I believe. And I had shown you, so it's entry stroke. We're doing like a little filled in dot, which is just like a little teardrop coming down a little bit, pressing, and then going back up again. That was a little bit more exaggerated than I wanted it to be. I kind of want it to be like a little mountain slope. Just kind of going down. That's always my little visual goal in my brain. I usually like keeping these above the waistline. I think it's fun. Having a little thing like poke out and be like, hello, I'm here. But I know that you also can do it so it's below. My one suggestion is, however you choose to make these little dots, like these little filled in dots, make it consistent throughout whatever piece you're doing. Because like a bee, you can do it like this, or like this. It totally messes it with the proportion and stuff, but it just kind of depends on what you prefer, to be honest. It's fine. But yeah, so the R, the other R, which is the more traditional one, is an overturn, like this. Then we're going up from the middle, up, filled in dot, and then away again. So this little stroke here is like a mini version of that bigger stroke that we did here when we did our letter F previously. That's what this guy is, right? So it's an overturn. We're coming up from the middle, filled in dot, and then away again. So again, this can sometimes, if you over exaggerate it too much, can look like a V if you come up from here and you go down too much. Like it can end up looking like a V and it becomes not super legible. So this scoopy thing shouldn't be too ginormous if you want to do your R's like this. We're kind of just going overturn, up from the middle, and then away again. So this line, and this line, and this line, all the hairlines should be on the same angle. And then your downstrokes, your thick one here, should be on the 55. So this one's a bit off because it's not quite 55, but and then you can also, so again, like I kind of like to make my little teardrop shape above the waistline, but below the waistline works as well. Again, just be consistent would be my suggestion to you. So now we do the letter S. So the letter S, like it's very similar to the letter P. So we're gonna go hairline, and then I do my little dot. Actually, it's kind of like a P and an R, kind of. So up hairline, we're doing our little filled in dot. We're coming down, and then it's that same shape that we were doing with the P before. Right here, like this right here is the same as this guy. Then we have, so that's one version of an S. Another version is like this. So like I said before, like we did this P before. So we're up, making that little dot, coming down. It's like an upside down E, we're pressing and then moving away. So this is an exit stroke, this is the entrance stroke. These should be at the same angles. I like to make my little dot above the line. And then we're kind of crossing at about the midpoint, I would say, right here of the X height. And yeah, so yeah, that would be two versions. Those are two S's. So again, you can kind of play around with this. Actually, same thing with the R. If you have a word that has two R's in a row, you don't have to make them the same R. You can use both. Same thing for the S. So, S, and then you do it like that. This one wasn't great because the angle on this one is wrong, but you get my meaning. You can kind of do it that way. So then the X is my nemesis, okay? I'm just going to be completely blunt and honest about that right now, which is annoying because I live in Quebec, okay? French. I think it's the most French, the most French people in the world outside of like France or something, or in the province that I live in, okay? X's are freaking everywhere in the French language. I am super not good at writing them. It's like it's a weird mental gymnastics to do them properly. And I haven't mastered it yet by any means. However, I will try my damnedest to be good on stream. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that I don't completely mess it up and give you bad habits. Okay? So the first X, because there are two versions, is kind of like two C's put together. So we're starting at a hairline. We're coming down towards ourselves, okay? And as you notice, it's all a hairline all the way around, even though this is a downstroke, okay? This is where I used to get into a lot of trouble when I first started learning, is that I was so used to doing everything that's a downstroke need to be thick, except for the X, okay? It's like the one exception to that rule, which is why it's in group 4, the exceptions. So this here is kind of like the S a little bit, except without the thick. It's like the P that's up there. Yeah. So like it's just the same shape, but without being thick here. Okay. So that's the left side of the X, and then the right side, we're doing essentially the letter C. So we're starting with a little dot. We're coming up, pressing, and then going away. So the reason why you don't have a weight on this side is because if you had a weight here and a weight here, all this turns into is a gigantic blob of ink. Okay, you can't read it, and it looks really heavy, especially from far away. You just see your eye immediately goes to the dark spot on the paper. So essentially, like a good way to look at this letter, I will use my pink pen to show. We're looking for an oval here and an oval here of the same width, which is difficult to do when you have a full word. Okay, and it's hard when, especially if you're like in the rhythm and doing things, and then all of a sudden you have to do the X because you want to press. Like when you're doing here, you want to put weight here. Like it's automatic, especially when you're writing a word, and like everything is always like, upstroke is light and high and hairlined, and then you down and you're pressing, and everything is nice, and then the X comes and messes your whole day up. Okay, this is what this is. It drives me a little crazy. So that's why there is another version that I will show you, because this one is my nemesis. Actually, well, both are my nemesis. This one is more of my nemesis. Which is this one, which is a little bit easier, but there's still a bit of a difference. So I took a class with Pat Blair, who is the old chief White House calligrapher under, I want to say, Bush? Anyways, she did an online copperplate class at the beginning of quarantine, closer to the beginning of quarantine in 2020. And she did her X, and she gave like a little tip in her class. I was like, this is good to know. So like I said in previous streams, when like you're always kind of aiming for having like a, let's say, let me write a word because it'll be easier for me to illustrate what I'm talking about. So what we're always aiming for is that we are touching the baseline and these spaces here are equidistant. This is what we're aiming for consistency, right? However, when you do an X in the way that I will show you, like, which is the compound curve plus this stroke, right? So we're doing compound curve. Sorry. Compound curve. Like this, all of a sudden, because you're usually used to doing a compound curve, like this is where the lines need to be consistent, right? But you're doing that and then you're adding another line here, which all of a sudden messes up your spacing. So she does a thing that kind of, even though it's not the same exact shape, and like the downstroke on this won't be at 55, your brain won't see it like that. It'll see it as like being perfectly fine. And I will illustrate, because we're going to do, instead of doing a compound curve where the downstroke is on the 55, we're actually going to change the angle a bit. And we're going to do it like this instead. And so this way, this is stretched out, which means then you can stick your other little piece of your X right there. This should have been a bit higher though, because this should like pierce the middle. But all of a sudden, then now your spacing becomes correct again versus being very like tight. Yeah, versus being very tight. Like this is tighter, and then all of a sudden this makes much more sense when you're doing it in the context of a full word. So we're not going to do it like this, even though you kind of want to, because that's how you do with every other shape, and you do your compound curve and your downstroke is on the 55. With this X, we're not going to do that, and we're going to change the angle a bit. We're almost going to make it like, it's almost straight. It's almost straight up and down, honestly. And then we're going to do, and pierce the middle, and come back on this side. And we're going to make our little, and all of a sudden we have our X. So we have version 1. This should have been more like this. Or version number 2. Like this. Cool. And now we go on to our last letter, which is the letter Z. I say Z because I'm in Canada, not Z. So there are 3 that I like to show my students. So the first one is we're going entry stroke, pressing. So we're coming back around like we did with the letter P, like we did with the P, with the S. Is that it? With the P and the S? Yes. Like with the P and with the S. So we're doing the same shape here, but instead of ending it here, making a little dot, we're coming back and we're doing a descender loop like that. So it's up, back. Let me do that one more time. There we go. So we're aiming for this to be 55 on the downstrokes. So we're coming down, we're coming back up a little bit. It's harder to see because my my paper is also black here, like with the lines. But yeah, we're coming up and we're coming down here. It's a little point, we're coming back around, pressing, going back up like a regular descender loop. Just looking at this, this is almost kind of the proportions for your Magic Skill B. I'd have to look at that. I just noticed that now. That's very interesting. It's a little interesting observation. I don't normally study them this, because I'm always looking at it myself. So looking at it straight on from on a camera, it's interesting. This actually might be like a Magic Skill B a little bit. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So there's that one. There's also this one, which kind of starts like if you're going to do the letter R. So you're coming up, we're making a little dot. But instead of like a letter R where you're like this, you're going up, and then you're coming back up again, and you're doing that same shape. This one's a little bit more tricky. It takes a little bit more finessing with your nib and a little bit more pen control. So if you can't do this, like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. This one's simpler. Also, it looks a bit more cleaner. Yeah, no, it definitely needs to be up and then over and then down. So it just depends. You can also, I was just thinking too, you can also throw in a little baby loop. Right down. If you want to, instead of having it at a point, you can also throw a little loop in there. If you want to do that, which is also cool, totally fine. Or you can just do like a Z like this. This is pretty simple. It's pretty standard, just like a Z. So we're gonna press, come over. Actually, I should probably make it a little bit more on the 55 if I'm gonna be consistent. Like that. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but it's an option if you want to do it. Usually the one I go for is this guy. She's just cleaner. It's just easier to do, to be honest, as well. Like once you kind of get this type of shape down, way easier, way good. Love that. It's cool. So yeah, let me do them all in a row. We have our letter F, our other letter F, we have our P, we have our Q, we have our R, we have our S, we have our X, and we have our Zs. So, like I said, so this was da, 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 letter group group 4. Ta-da! Yay! And there was much rejoicing. Super fun. So yeah, there we go. Letter group 4. We are good. I think that's all I needed to show you guys today. I'm trying to think if I want to go in and really poke around in there with like more info, but I've already been streaming, I think, for an hour and a half or so, give or take. My voice is getting a little tired. I always forget to grab water and put it like on my desk somewhere. So my voice always gets a little, because I don't talk all day anymore. I'm at home. That's it. It's just at home. So yeah. Anyways, I think so. Oh, by the way, I always forget to mention this at the end of my streams. Actually, I always remove my nib from my pen holder. Okay, and the reason why I do that is because if they're at all wet from like ink or something, or from water when you're cleaning them off, they rust super fast, super quickly. So if you leave it like overnight once, your nib is pretty much not going to be usable the next day. So I always take it out, clean it off, paper towel, make sure it's nice and dry. And I have this little tray. Technically, it's like a paint mixing little, I said tray, it's not really a tray. Little tiny bowl. It's made by a calligrapher named Amity Park, and I bought it from her in 2019 at the International Calligraphy Conference. She's very well known for these because she has a clay, like she has a clay forge or something in her house. So she makes these things. So like it's a butterfly that has Roman capital letters that make it, which is really fun and cool. But yeah, it's from Amity Parks from 2019. It's really fun. But I just usually leave this guy like close to my desk with nibs that I'm currently rotating through. And like this one. So last week or the week before, on Monday, I had done a bunch of congratulations cards for a client on stream. Oh, what is her name? Amity Parks. I know that she just recently redid like a bunch of designs. They may have all already sold out. She's like, so many people buy from her. She's in the States. But yeah, Amity, Amity Parks. Parks, like a park with an S. My pleasure. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. If you want to know anything else, if you have any questions about letter group number 4 or anything we've already previously done, I'm here to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, then I am going to skadoosh. I'm gonna skedaddle. Gonna go and start making dinner. Delicious, delicious dinner. Because it's 5:30 and I have to cook. It's my time to shine or not shine, depending on how much my husband likes my cooking or not. I think he's okay with it though. It's fine. All right, guys. I appreciate you. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I'll be back next week. I don't remember what I was doing next week. It may have been double letters. I don't know. I have it in my calendar. I'll update my social medias and I'll let you guys know what the deal is, what next week will be. But I'll be back next Thursday for more teaching. So you can feel free to come and join and say hello, ask questions. Yeah, cool. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope that y'all stay safe. Bye.